I'd kind of wanted to post my first devotion outside in the nice spring air, but it's not very nice outside, as you probably noticed. When you got up this morning, it's rainy and overcast, and I think this kind of is the mood of a lot of things right now, here in Utah especially. I know we're all kind of reeling, we're all a little bit probably on edge. You probably were on edge like me yesterday afternoon, just kind of wondering if there was another earthquake coming, what was going to happen. Kind of been on edge looking at the news lately, just concerned about this pandemic, the panic of people, economic concerns. I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now that are troubling, and we'd be fools to not recognize that. Pretend as if none of it's a big deal. It is a big deal. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of reasons to be troubled at heart. But Jesus says something about that. Jesus tells us, he says, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also." Now that phrase captured me this morning. We read that verse with our family in our family devotion time today. Let not your heart be troubled. That's one of those easier said than done, right, Jesus? He's talking to his disciples. He's about to face terrible, terrible circumstances. He's about to be betrayed, arrested, go to the cross for them. They are sensing all of this. He's told them about this. They're troubled at heart. But what's interesting to me about this is not just that Jesus says, don't be troubled. It's that he tells them why they should not be troubled. And it's such a simple reason why they and we should not let the events of the day, as devastating or as concerning or as fearful as they are, whether it's economic fears, natural disaster fears, pestilence, pandemic, news, why we should not let those, as Christians, let those things trouble our heart. He says it's simply this: you believe in God, believe in me. He then says, God's my Father. I'm your friend. It's all good. He goes on to say, as we were very familiar with that passage, that in heaven, my abode, he's saying, the place of my Father and my place, there is a room for you. I told my kids this morning that for the Christian, there's a room reserved in God's house. That there's a sign above the door with their name on it, perhaps. And no one can take that room. And that's where all the joys of eternity are waiting for them. And so there's hope beyond this life. One of the biggest concerns I have with all that's been going on in the news, with this virus scare, the coronavirus, with the pandemic, with anxiety about very real economic problems that are going to come as a result of all this. One of the biggest things I've noticed is that our world is beside itself with the fear of death. Like, this life is the only thing they have and the only thing we have, and that to preserve it at all costs, no matter what that is. And while I believe it's very important that we are careful and we love life and we cherish life, it's a gift from God, we have to recognize that this life is not all there is. There is a better life coming. And Jesus uses this and he says, don't be afraid. Let not your heart be troubled. There's a better place for you than this place. In fact, you could put it this way. The worst thing that could ever happen to us as Christians, as disciples, is death. And yet that death would usher in the best thing that could ever happen to anyone. God is so good and sovereign that he has decided that the worst thing that this world can bring turns out to be the best thing that a Christian can experience. So, beloved, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe in Jesus. He's got a room for you there, and he's coming back to take you to himself to be forever with him. Let that steady your heart today. God bless you.